Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be on this planet. Welcome to another edition of Football Picks here on TalkingSports.tv. In frigid Toronto, I'm Marty York. Joining me in studio, handsome Howard Kamin, one of the finest handicappers you'll find anywhere on the planet. And in toasty San Diego at his home office, Uncle Ben himself, Uncle Ben of Uncle Ben's Football.com. About right here at the beginning of our segment this week. And that involved two of the premier teams in the NFL. The Denver Broncos were at the New England Patriots. It was cold there in New England. I mean, it was so cold that Bill Belichick literally had his lips stuck together. He couldn't talk. He's a lousy radio interview as it is, or TV interview as it is. But I mean, he would really be bad if he had to talk under those conditions, because I don't think he could get through to his own team in that first half. In the first half, the New England Patriots looked absolutely dreadful. And yet, Ben, the New England Patriots came back to win the game in the second half when the Broncos looked terrible. And I think the cold got to Peyton Manning. Your thoughts about what happened last week? Does this prove that the New England Patriots are better than the Denver Broncos?
Well, it's always a great matchup when you get Peyton Manning and Tom Brady together. Everybody was anticipating that, and TV networks were pumping it all week long. And it started out rather bizarre, the game, with 3 straight turnovers, 17-0 Denver in the first 8 minutes. And I'm sitting here with my cold beer getting all ready to enjoy a great game, and it looked like it was going to really turn out to be not such a great game. As a matter of fact, I had New England there minus the 2.5 on Sunday night. So at halftime, when it was 24-0, guys, I jumped on New England in the second half. I got to tell you, -6 to hopefully try to get my money back, right?
Right.
Turns out in the end, they came back miraculously. Denver tied it up just before game went to overtime. Crazy ending, too, with the punt. And then, the guys were backing off and hit one of the Denver players and allowed New England really to win the game there. But, yes, I think New England is certainly as good as the Denver Broncos. New England's playing with a lot of confidence right now. They should have lost that game, clearly. Denver got beaten badly last week, in my opinion, throughout the entire game. If it wasn't for those first 8 minutes, New England would have won that game easily, gentlemen. But crazy ending. And there's a couple of – I'm interested to tell you how I think these teams are going to rebound this week, but I guess we'll get into that in a few minutes. But I do like the New England Patriots. Now they feel that they can actually get the home field advantage now in the playoffs if the chips fall right for them, because if they end up tied with Denver now, at the end, after it's all said and done, New England will get the home field. I think that's a motivating factor for them. And I just like what's going on. Gronkowski's back. Edelman seems to be healthy. They seem to be scoring a lot more points than they did the first 5 or 6 weeks, New England. And I like the Patriots, down the stretch here, guys.
All right, well, get your thoughts on how Houston will fare against New England this week in Houston, the Patriots being a 7-point favorite. But, Howard, this game last week was a memorable one. Belichick obviously got his lips unglued at halftime where he warmed up, and he talked to his players, and they came out a completely different team. Did Peyton Manning surprise you as to how ineffective he was in the second half?
Well, first of all, Peyton Manning wasn't good in the first half either. Marino was
That's true.
Was running the ball well. Their game plan that game, I believe, was to establish a running game, and due to all those turnovers early on in the game, they got off to a quick lead. They just basically got into a game where they thought they could kill the clock with the running game and win it easy, right? But Manning had terrible numbers the whole night. He didn't have a great first half either. As a matter of fact, it could have been a lot higher of a score in the first half had he have had a good half that time. One of the touchdowns was on a fumble return for a touchdown.
Right.
They stalled once near the goal line, and there was a couple other times that Denver couldn't move the ball where they could have really blown that game out. But what I grasped from that game was you've got to give the kudos to Bill Belichick and Brady, because 24-0 at the end of the first half. It's a cold Sunday night.
They looked out of it.
They looked out of it. Most teams would have went into the dressing room and just said, you know what, it ain't happening, right? But these guys came out in the second half, and you could tell right from that first drive that as soon as they made it 24-7, I said, New England's coming back in this game. You could just feel it. You could sense it. The crowd was getting into it. And I think that the stock of Tom Brady went past Peyton Manning just on that game because I honestly believe that had the role have been reversed, had New England have been winning 24-0 in the first half, I don't believe Peyton Manning would have come back the same way Brady would have. I just don't feel that it would have happened that way. I gained so much respect for Brady that night. He was pissed. He was pissed off in the first half. You could see a few times he just went back to the sidelines and he was upset. Guys were dropping the ball, fumbling the ball, and he was just, he's the type of guy that he gets up for games like this, and he wanted to win. And he came out in the second half all guns a-blazing. And, another interesting thing was that had that ball not have ricocheted off that Denver special teams player and New England fell on it, that game might have ended up in a tie. Now, I don't know, Ben, what would the odds be in Vegas of 2 ties in one Sunday afternoon? I mean, that would be...
It would be off the charts because I think there's only been 2 ties ever weekend in the history of the overtime cycle in the NFL.
Well, I don't know. If they have a prop like that, you could parlay ties.
I mean, who would ever think 1 tie, never mind 2 ties? But
anyway, it was a game that we won't forget in some time because it really did feature 2 classic teams, 2 classic quarterbacks, 2 guys that are going to the Hall of Fame. And the outcome was interesting. And again, the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing was unbelievable. But let's look forward now. Let's move ahead to this weekend. And we mentioned that Houston entertains New England this week. We'll talk a little later on in the program about Manning and the Denver Broncos going into Kansas City to face the Chiefs. That's a good matchup, too. But, Ben, your thoughts of this game between Houston and New England on Sunday. The Patriots are 7-point favorites riding off this high against Denver. What can we expect to happen? Who do you like?
Well, like I said, I mean, Bill Belichick, I think it's now the New England Patriots sort of see the opportunity now, like I said earlier, to possibly get the home field. If Denver goes into Kansas City this week, beats the Chiefs again, and the Chiefs are in sort of a free fall, I would say, if that takes place, losing 3 in a row. Like I said, New England's got the tiebreaker now with Denver if they can just pick up 1 game on them down the road here. And the Patriots have a fairly, easy schedule coming up, to be honest with you. And I like the New England Patriots this week. I don't see a letdown against the Houston Texans, who've lost 8 or 9 in a row. I don't care who Gary Kubiak's on the sideline. Gary Kubiak's going to be pushing paper in about 5 weeks from now doing some other job. He won't be coaching the Houston Texans anymore.
That's
I don't
true.
care what the says down there. And I just think the New England Patriots are going to seize the opportunity. They should have lost last week. I don't see them losing this week. Winners are covering them at a rate of about 85%. I say give up the touchdown with the New England Patriots this week. Houston is no place to get refocus against the New England Patriots team. I just think that the Pats are going to get it done. 7 points. I like New England to win the game and cover the spread.
Howard, the Texans look like they're trying to play for a higher draft choice next year. The last few weeks have been absolutely abysmal for this team. And Kubiak's uncertain status is, I think Ben is absolutely right. I think Kubiak is done as the coach of the Texans. I think the whole team is really just cannot wait for the offseason. And yet, there's something about this game that makes me think, and with all due respect to Ben, who's, as his picks at UncleBen'sFootball.com have indicated consistently, he knows what he's talking about. But there's something about the Texans. I don't think it just could be dismissed absolutely this weekend. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, there's no doubt that the Houston Texans have been the biggest disappointment in the NFL this year. I mean, they were a team that a lot of experts were predicting to go far places this year, and right from the get-go, they've looked like nothing but a very disappointing football team.
They look like bums. Let's tell it like it is.
They
look like bums.
How can you get worse?
Totally.
How can you get worse than losing at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that's looked like a minor league football team all year? You're in front of your home crowd and you lose at home against the Jaguars. So all that being said.